Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For connectors, cables, and more, call 920-435-2973 or visit pl-259.com. And by ICOM. Heard it? Worked it? Logged it. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information about ICOM radios.
Standing in the snow with a brand new radio, catching the ISS, satellites are the best. A gate on the roof, repeater down the street. What fun it is to make contacts with everyone I meet. Oh, radio, radio, cute and folks one day. I like to get all the gifts around the USA. Hey, radio, radio, cute and folks one day. I like to get all the gifts around the USA.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It's time for Ham Talk Live, episode number 284. IARU Region 2 Youth, recorded live on Thursday, December 16th, 2021. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. Tonight we're joined by Sterling Mann in 0SSC, and we'll take your calls live in just a few minutes. Last week, the crew from Amateur Radio Newsline was here to talk about Newsline present and past. If you missed that show, you can listen anytime at hamtalklive.com or on your favorite podcast app or YouTube. Or you can catch the rebroadcast of Ham Talk Live every Saturday afternoon on WTWW. That's 5085 on your AM dial. And that's, again, Saturday afternoons. It usually runs about 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So get your questions ready to go. If you're listening to us live on Thursday night, you'll be able to call us a little later on in the show. But I'll go ahead and give you the phone number so you have it ready to dial. It is 859-982-7373. Again, 859-982-7373. You can also tweet us. It's at Ham Talk Live on Twitter. If you're on Spreaker, you can type in the comments, and that'll show up here on the screen as well. And I'll be back with Sterling and talk more with him right after this word from ICOM America right here on Ham Talk Live. Happy holidays from ICOM. This season, spice up your ham shack with ICOM's IC705 portable or the new ID52A handheld, now shipping. These radios are perfect for staying in or venturing out and working your favorite bands this winter season. The IC705 is the perfect sidekick and QRP companion. Base station features and functionality at the tip of your fingers in a portable package covering HF, 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at just over 2 pounds with RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. It has a 4.3-inch color touchscreen with live band scope and waterfall, 5 watts with the battery, 10 watts with the power supply, sideband CW, AM, FM, full D-Star functions, Bluetooth, wireless LAN, integrated GPS, micro SD card slot, speaker mic comes standard, and supports QRP and QRPP operations. The perfect accessory for the IC705 is the optional backpack with a special compartment for your IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations or a day out in the wild. The ID52A is now shipping. ICOM's newest handheld amateur radio is a VHF-UHF dual bander with D-Star and FM dual mode functions. This radio supports conventional FM communications and D-Star simplex, repeater, regional, and worldwide calls over the D-Star Internet Gateway. The ID52A is the first handheld amateur radio with a full-color 2.3-inch waterfall display and the ability to send photos over D-Star with a connected Android device. Other features include a wideband receiver with a guaranteed range of 144 to 148 and 440 to 450 megahertz. You can have VHF on both sides, UHF on both sides, or one of each with dual DV mode. Integrated GPS, including grid square location, a micro SD card slot, micro USB for data, programming, and charging, and is IPX7 waterproof. The ID52A is the perfect companion to the IC705. Both use compatible batteries and headsets, and you can use the same Android app for D-Star operation. Our family of favorite ICOM amateur radios are also available this holiday season. The IC9700, IC7300, and IC7610 base stations, and the ID5100A mobile are the perfect gift, and it's the most wonderful time of year to give the gift of ICOM. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios.
At Ham Talk Live, we have $1 million request guarantee. You give us $1 million, and we'll do a show about whatever ham topic you request. Guaranteed.
Welcome back to Ham Talk Live. Tonight, Sterling Mann, N0SSC, joins us on the Orlando Amateur Radio Club and Amcation Zoom line. Sterling is from St. Louis, Missouri. He's currently an antenna design engineer for one of those big aerospace companies in St. Louis. Sterling became a ham at age 16 and is one of the former youth editors at ARRL and has his own YouTube channel about ham radio, and he's the president of the Young Amateurs Radio Club, better known as YARC, and he is a co-founder of Youth on the Air, and his hat that he's wearing tonight is the IARU Region 2 Youth Liaison. So, Sterling, welcome back to the show.
Hello again. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me on. I'm always glad to talk about youth.
Yeah, and this has been on my radar for quite a while, and I thought, well, I'm going to let Sterling get a chance to announce this, and then I never got back to it. So we're going to talk about this youth liaison thing tonight, and talk a little bit about some of the things that have been happening behind the scenes. Now, you've probably heard, if you've listened to this show, you've heard about Yoda Camp and all the activities going on with Yoda Camp and Yoda Month. But what you haven't necessarily heard, on this show at least, is some of the stuff that's been going on across Region 2, not just in the U.S., and trying to build up some international Yoda stuff. So talk a little bit about your role as a youth liaison. What does that entail, and what are you trying to do?
Sure. So kind of backtracking a bit, back in 2016, you've all heard this story again, but I'll reiterate it in like 10 seconds or less. I went to the Austrian Yoda Camp in 2016, Youth on the Air Camp, and with the goal of bringing youth on the air, or youngsters on the air, to Region 2. Region 2 being the Americas, all the way from Canada all the way down to Argentina. All the Americas, right? So Youth on the Air was created, and that includes the camp that you, Neil, are the director of, and you're very familiar with, and a lot of our listeners are too. But also all of these other activities and resources that have been put out for youth have been going on as well. In fact, this came kind of after all of the Yoda Camp work. We were working with the IARU, the International Amateur Radio Union of Region 2. There are obviously, again, three IRUs for each region, plus like the overarching one, to kind of formalize a position such that we had a person that could be leveraged, and I'm using all these big corporate terms, right? Basically, a person that is a resource for both young hams and old hams alike, and people who want to help get youth involved in ham radio and bring the demographic of amateur radio downwards in age, and at the same time to help out youngsters who are looking for people in their peer group or are looking for ways to get more involved, and to also feed back that information to the IRAU and its member societies. And those are member societies are things, organizations, for example, like the ARRL or the Radio Amateurs of Canada, or the the FMRE, which is the I'll butcher the pronunciation, but essentially the Mexican Amateur Radio League. They're the formal amateur radio associations of each of the countries in the whole region. So I'm kind of I don't want to call it a youth coordinator because that's such a overused term, but I'm a liaison, I'm a connector, I'm a facilitator, and liaison just seemed to be like the corporate term that kind of fit the best. So what do? I do a variety of things. I put together this meeting. We started actually almost a year ago, December 30th. We started meetings to connect the entirety of Region 2, both in Spanish. We did some Portuguese. We had, and in English, on Zoom, to talk with hams young and old and in the middle, all across the region, to see what was going on and to feel the pulse of youth in amateur radio throughout the entire region. Because right now, us in the United States, we kind of have a good feel. We know we have Young Amateurs Radio Club, we have Yacht, we have you have Young Ham of the Year. I'm familiar. You might be familiar with Bears or not Bears, Bark Jr. from past ago. Ham Radio Boulder. World, in Boulder. There's a variety of clubs around, and I've always said this: they're always been fragmented. And one of my goals was to try to coalesce and connect all of these disparate and fragmented groups together. And I think if I didn't mention Yacht, I should mention Yacht, the Young Amateurs Communications Ham Team. They're great too. But anyway, what about South America? What about Mexico? What's going on in the Caribbean and Canada? Like, what's going on all over the place? We want to connect those together too, so that we can facilitate communication and fraternity and friendship across nations. And that's kind of the goal of ham radio in the beginning, right? Is this international goodwill piece, right? And doing that with the youth of amateur radio, it fits so many purposes, not only for amateur radio, but for the youth in general. Getting them off the streets, getting them off of drugs and that sort of thing, right? If we're thinking like that, but also like as a good sandbox for science, tech, engineering, math, arts, whatever you want to call it, STEM, whatever, and just being a fun thing to do. So that's, in a nutshell, my ramblings of what my role is. I really don't do that much. I go by every 2 weeks. I have this meeting, and I'm like, well, what have I done this last 2 weeks? Oh, I should probably do something. I send out a bunch of emails. It's pretty much all I really do, if I'm being honest. But I facilitate the meetings. I connect. I email and I connect the head honchos, the leaderships of large amateur radio organizations, all the way from the ARRL to the IRAU, with the youth in amateur radio in mind. I always poke at the sides of people like, right now, Dave Minster, like the CEO of ARRL, our section management, our youth coordination, as well as the sides of other member societies that are willing to speak English, because my Espanol is muy, muy malo, as you can tell, hopefully. And so that we keep ourselves aware that, we, in the words of Frank Howell, K4FMH, are facing kind of a demographic cliff. You go to a ham fest, you see a lot of, like a sea of gray hair, of graying hair or no hair. And so there's a lot of data that shows from contests, from surveys, from informal surveys and formal surveys that there's not a lot of youth out there. And there are quite a bit. I mean, YARC, for example, has 1,000 members from all over the world, mostly the United States. But, we're trying our best to increase those numbers. And to do that, we've got to really, do as much as we can in as many places as possible. And so getting that word out as broadly as possible is kind of my goal, if you will. So, all right, I'll shut up.
Very good.
Take a drink.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, okay, what is the goal here?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you've done a pretty good job of explaining that. The group allows us to communicate a little bit more about the camp directly, about Yoda Month. In fact, Yoda Month, instead of just being 2 or 3 countries, now we added El Salvador today. Mm-hmm. I think that may not be official yet, but the license is there, the approval's there. We just need to make sure the registration form's filled out. But it'll, if it's not official, it will be tomorrow. We've got El Salvador, we've got Argentina, we've got Peru, we've got Cuba even just jumped in. We hadn't even talked to them. And then Canada has 2 call signs now, where we had 1 2 years ago, and last year we didn't end up with any. So, it's definitely helped spread the word about Yoda Month. We've been able to help people get their call signs and get them registered and that kind of thing. But it also has kind of inspired a information sharing, some ideas of some activities to do with people, and so that's been really cool to see. So let's talk a little bit about what you've accomplished and what the group has accomplished in the last year, and spread this Yoda idea throughout the Americas.
So besides Yoda Month, and I think Yoda Month is a great accomplishment to have all this coordinated activity to get Yoda call signs and youth on the air. But for example, Aldo, I think it's OA4, Oscar Alpha 4, Delta Papa Mike, in Panama. He just one example. There's several like this, and I'll probably pick on the Canadians too, because they have really great programs. They have started a program using FRS radios that Yasmi has donated to them to train youngsters in the art of radio, essentially giving them handheld radios to experiment with and do different tasks with. Fuzzy on the details because I wrote it down and then forgot somewhere. But essentially a little stepping stone, a legal stepping stone in getting them interested, at least educated about the art and science of wireless communication, and definitely doing something to, let's see, what's the word? Everyone however, we take for granted communications, radio communications in general, because everyone has a cell phone. Same might not be so true for a lot of South America with huge socioeconomic disparity and differences, but still now it's 2021, almost literally everyone has some sort of cell phone, but you still don't know what goes on. That's kind of the goal there, is to educate young people on how radio works. That's a huge industry, a huge electrical engineering industry that can bring the said youngster a lot of interesting career paths, if you will. And that even goes back to like the reasoning why amateur radio is protected, space, spectrum, and all of that stuff, to increase the technical base of people, to improve electrical engineering in general. But I digress. So there's one thing. Another thing is like the other Yoda camps are starting to brew up. For example, in LU land, Lucas, LU1 FAM, Lima Uniform 1 Foxtrot Alpha Mike, Lucas is coordinating a youth camp in Argentina. It's a weekend camp. So like, how we have this week-long camp, very much like the youngsters on the IARU Region 1. You don't have to do a whole week-long camp. That's a lot of work, but you can definitely do a week weekend camp, it's a lot easier. It's much, easier to plan for. It's much easier to get a whole bunch of youngsters into it, and cheaper as well. So they're doing that in their summer, which is of 2022, which I guess is now between December and April. I forget exactly when it is. I haven't talked to him in the last couple meetings. I don't know where he's been, but they are having that. And then Canada, of course, I know 3 or 4 different things, and they're doing a lot of stuff with scouting. Jason Tremblay, I forget his call sign, but he's working with universities to put together, what was it? Another race, basically another type of radio camp called, I have notes from last night's meeting, but it flew out of my head. But basically, there's all these little projects that have started up through these meetings we've been having, these ideas of like, how can we get young people educated about ham radio, interested in it, and with the idea that, we're not going to get them licensed right now. We're not going to get them as a contester or learning Morse code or whatever. We are going to seed their mind. We are maybe going to get them to do those things later on in life. Who knows? But the goal here is, education of technology, science, engineering, math with the amateur radio sprinkle, if you will. I think that's what everyone has been seeing there. And I've been also working with some of the educators. Steve Good Game, K5ATA, invited me to his ARRL education groups.io. And as a youth liaison, I'm in a perfect place to see what's going on in terms of what educators are doing in the United States, for example. And there's a lot of great things being done there. As you for example, you're an educator, so you should know.
Yep.
So that's a couple of the things. And the irony is that these meetings haven't really been with young people. Like there's a few young people like under the age of say 20, 25 actually join. These meetings are predominantly middle age, older, my age or above. I'm 30, so I'm usually the youngest with a few rare exceptions. My intention with those meetings is to inform everyone out there that, hey, there's this problem, let's try to fix it, or not even really present it as a problem, but as a challenge, if you will. So to try to get more young people involved with ham radio and whatnot. So
if someone is a youth coordinator, works with youth, whatever you want to call it, should they be attending these meetings? And if so, how do they do that? Tell everybody, a little bit about participation. Yeah,
absolutely. If you are an educator, if you're interested in amateur radio and perhaps like exuding the spirit of amateur radio to a younger generation, even, you don't have to be an educator, you don't have to be anybody. You can be I'm just a random guy off the street, if you will, who's into ham radio. But I'm just interested in sharing the passion. People who are experts at that, who have good ideas or who have had good ideas in the past, are really, really, super cordially invited, because what we want to do is share and amplify those ideas across and share them broadly, so that these good ideas can be made available, made public, so that they can be replicated if they're really that great. So that we can share our methods of producing Yoda camps, and if you're interested in running like a Yoda camp or Yoda Camp Light, like a weekend event, everyone's more than welcome. In fact, it's already been recorded. All the episodes are recorded and posted to YouTube, and there's a podcast feed. But if you want to get an invite, just hit me up, Sterling at n0ssc.com, or I don't know, I have 50 emails, but that's probably the best one. If you Google me, you'll know how to find me. But we'll send out some links with the the show notes, and everyone's more than welcome.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break. It's time to do that. But we'll come back and talk some more with Sterling, and take your phone calls and questions and all that sort of thing. And we'll talk a little bit more about youth right after this word from Tower Electronics right here on Ham Talk Live.
Is this getting serious?
I think so.
Well, how do you feel about it? Just imagine if you hadn't run out of PL259s.
Just imagine if your connectors weren't from Tower Electronics.
Consider the sophisticated quality of connectors from Tower Electronics. Their silver-plated end connectors are so good, they've even been used on the International Space Station.
I'm not so sure why I ever used any other PL259s.
Mine are better. Besides, you deserve the best. You know I love you.
Don't be caught without PL259s. Visit Tower Electronics at a Hamfest near you, or visit them online anytime at pl-259.com or call 920-435-2973. They also have ham sticks, mobile antennas, and meters too. See the whole catalog. Go to pl-259.com. Tower Electronics, the ham's dime store since 1978.
Join the conversation. Give us a call at 859-982-7373. Again, the number to call is 859-982-7373. Or, if you'd rather type than talk, tweet us at Ham Talk Live. Now, here's Neil Rapp with more Ham Talk Live.
Here's the snap. Rapp takes the rig. He breaks through the pileup. He's on 80, now 40, now 20, 15, 10, 2 meters. Touchdown, Ham Talk Live.
Welcome back to Ham Talk Live. We're on the air every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time right here at hamtalklive.com. And be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Tower Electronics, they're going to be on the Hamfest Trail here again in January the 8th. They'll be in Orlando, Florida at Jackfest. Fort Myers, Florida, January 21st and 22nd, at Arcadia, Florida, January 29th. But you can visit them at pl-259.com from anywhere you have internet. So before we get back to Sterling, it's that time once again for the N9 GSU Ham Radio Joke of the Week.
Now it's time for the Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week, a part of the show where Rick tells us a ham radio joke. The Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week is brought to you by QRM Labs. Now, here's Rick Garrett, N9 GSU, with today's Ham Talk Live Joke of the Week.
I had a fellow ham come over to install a beam on top of my 100-foot tower. He refused to wear a climbing belt or safety harness. He obviously doesn't understand the gravity of the situation.
This has been the Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week with Rick Garrett, N9 GSU. Tune in again next week for another joke from Rick.
Now Sterling left his video on, so I could see his expression when that when the punchline came up, and it was the oh no.
I probably had the same one every time. Just like, I saw that one coming.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, it's time for your calls. So if you have a question, give us a call right now. And the number to call is 859-982-7373. One more time on that number. It's 859-982-7373. Or you can tweet us. It's at Ham Talk Live over on Twitter. And if you're on Spreaker and you have an account, you can type in the comments. But if you're listening to us on WTWW or on the podcast edition of the show, you won't be able to reach us live since we're doing this on Thursday night. All right, well, let's get back to it here, and we'll check and see if we have anybody listening live tonight. we know we'll have plenty listening after the show is over, but we'll see if we have anything. But let's talk a little bit about what you see in the future of these meetings and what we're kind of hoping to accomplish here in the next year, since it's almost the next year.
It is very close. So we're gonna take a break from the next meeting. We do these meetings every 2 weeks, so they're not too crazy. And I honestly wish there were more. I think one of the initiatives I tried to do is try to spark an interest to have more people do more meetings and meetings. Everyone has gotten Zoom fatigue in the world of COVID, and so meetings are probably not the way to go. But still, like, we got to have meetings to have communication. you gotta bring people into a place to, like, share ideas, and there are a variety of ways to do that. So I've made a variety of ways to do that. We have a groups.io, we have a Google group, like we have putting together like a workspace, like for youthontheair.org. There's a Discord chat. There's a whole community of hams, like the campers on Telegram and all that stuff. So my goals and intentions is to do whatever I can to spark as much like online interest and activity. And if it's not online, I want to like put together whatever I can on the air, like nets or reflectors. I actually put together my Pi Star last night. I stayed up till probably 1:40 a.m. Trying to figure out how to get DMR or Yaesu System Fusion to push to DMR so I could listen to like the worldwide DMR over Yaesu. It was crazy. I don't know why they make it so hard, and the instructions that come with it are there are none. But I don't know. Just find as many ways to connect everyone involved who wants to as easily as possible. And as the meetings go, if I could find a replacement who can speak fluent Spanish, that would be super, because I am really flaky. My Spanish is, again, muy malo. And I'm never, like, just like my CW, I'm probably never going to get around to improving it. So if you're out there and you're really jazzed about sharing passions and getting people involved with inspiring the next generation of amateur radio, right? You would be a great candidate for doing very little work. Honestly, I just turn on the Zoom meeting, say a few things, put together a little agenda, and we go around the room, talk about our projects. We spin up some ideas, write it all down, record it, post it, and then we wait 2 weeks to do it all over again. There's a little bit of like trying to keep people involved. For example, at one meeting, we had like 30 or 50 people, because we had a lot of really good like outreach through Hamfests and through things like Rat Pack and what's the couple of Canadians and people like the Friday meetings that do, I forget, not Friday, Saturday meetings on Zoom. One of the things.
Cycle 25?
Yeah, Cycle 25. They had some people come in, and we had tons of people, and it all kind of like fizzled down to the same 6-7 regulars, if you will. So I have to send out emails saying like, hey, come back. It won't hurt if you just, join us for a few minutes, and just so we can see how you're doing. And a lot of times I send those emails out in Spanish, and that helps. Finding somebody who can do that, or even lead meetings entirely in Spanish. That's one of the things we try to do. And that would be really cool, because a lot of the region too is Spanish speaking. And that's a huge challenge. There's a huge language barrier throughout, especially if you're looking at Brazil. Brazil has a lot of hams, and it's all Portuguese, and that language is way out there in terms of like being able to speak from English to Portuguese and even Spanish to Portuguese. It's close, but not quite. That's I think the plan for the meetings. They're still going to we're going to meet yet again on January 12th, so put that in your calendars. They occur at 0100 Zulu on, I guess, Thursdays in UTC, but it's Wednesdays. My time would be 8 p.m. Central Time on Wednesdays, so that would be January 12th. So if you don't hear from me, and if you email me, just find another way to contact me. It won't be, I promise I'll answer in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, what else are we going to do? I want to try to do some kind of like more media outlets, like podcast or YouTube or something, or Twitch, or like have young people like actually sharing their interest in their activity in the hobby. There are a lot of, like I said, a lot of young people doing things in amateur radio, and there are also a lot of young people on YouTube and Twitch and the world of streaming video on the internet and audio. And like here we are, and so I'm trying to seek out ways to do that, to capitalize, if you will, on that. So I think that would be really, really helpful. I also want to like build partnerships with our member societies. So like ARRL, when it comes to youth, we pretty much only see things like the scholarships. They have a youth coordination system in their section, in their field organization, but there's no reporting. There's no, like, I don't know, not many people on the outside know what's going on, and you have to really dig and know the right people to know like what they're doing and how they're meeting, and and what the ins and outs of that are, and to have a good feeling of like, do they all have like youth and amateur radio in the back of their minds, as you know, with the other 50 million things going on, which is totally understandable. But like building relationships with member societies like ARRL, RIC. One really good example is how Yoda in Region 1 has relationships with RSGB in Great Britain, the OARC in Austria, the DARC in Germany. Those are some amazing relationships they have. I mean, they have really good resources. All of those member societies have really good resources for young people, and they're good. The relationships have been really great, so we're basically taking that too and modeling what we can from them.
All right. The phone number, once again, 859-982-7373. If you would like to give us a call, now is the time to do that, because we're going to be finishing things up here. And yeah, I the only reason I thought of Cycle 25 was I just saw Rod VA30N had just liked the tweet. So
exactly.
Good evening, Rod, and
that's what I was thinking of.
Great to see you. But yeah, I've been in on the one of the Cycle 25 meetings, and it's a pretty good deal. So it's kind of bringing clubs to places that don't have clubs, and also, you know, involving a lot of the youth that he works with on there. So that's a cool thing. Well, before we go, you know, we've talked about what's going on with Yoda here in IARU Region 2. We will at least mention a few of the other things going on. We mentioned Yoda Month. And then, you know, we're planning the next Region 2 wide Yoda camp, and hopefully COVID will allow us to make that truly across Region 2 instead of just the U.S. But those plans are finalizing now. So
very close.
Those dates will be announced soon, and the location. And then the process of bidding for the next camp will be coming up. So it's not going to stay in the same place all the time. We're going to move it around. So that will be coming up as well. So talk just a minute or two here about the excitement for this summer.
Oh, just looking back at what we did last summer, oh my gosh! Like one of the people who really like his comments like come out to me is Adam KD9KAS. Like the words life changing and amazing, and I think Taylor also mentioned life changing. Ruth, I think a lot of anybody who got on like the horn or got on like a video call or an interview said something about how it was life changing, and it brings a tear to my eye. How that can happen. I mean, it's bringing a bunch of young people who have a common interest in amateur radio together for a week to share their interest in amateur radio and share their knowledge of their little expertise, like little cell of expertise with other people who might not have that, in a structured and also somewhat unstructured way, which is like super great. We're just building on that, and we're getting better. And this year, we're doing even more to make those young people do more of the work, much to my and Neil's pleasure, so that we don't have to do all of that work. And I think that's going to be even more successful. We might not have any idea like why they would be doing the things that they're doing in the way that they're doing, but that's because we're this generation and they are that generation, and that's just the way that humans generation.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how it evolves in that short time span. And then as we move forward, even into like 2023, like this bidding thing and going international too, like COVID, goodbye COVID, get out of here. We won't miss you. Please leave, right, by the camp. Hopefully we can have a lot of international guests for 2022, but by 2023, maybe we'll get some bids from like other countries like Canada, Mexico, looking at you especially, in South America, Caribbean. Like, what about Yoda Camp in Jamaica, or the Azores, or wait, the Azores is a region.
Nope.
Never mind.
Wrong. Yep, wrong region.
Yeah. Anyway, they're just as beautiful as other places. Trinidad and Tobago, whatever. The opportunities are endless, and it doesn't have to be this one single camp. It can expand to any number. I mean, sub-regional camps are a thing in Region 1, and so I think that's a great thing we can do here as well. Region 3, too. I mean, I've seen some really great things happening in Yoda Japan with the Japanese government. Like some, I'm just trying to read and put together thoughts at the same time, but there's actually like a partnership working together, and there's this whole shaping the future thing, and so everything is kind of all coming together to really shape a new generation of amateur radio, and Yoda is a really strong part of it. And Yoda Camp next year is right there in the middle of it. So I'm pumped. I'm hyped. Yeah. I'm excited.
I am too. And yes, we do need the young people to take over some of our work, but more importantly, it will. That's the big challenge this year is to get the youth learning how to run things and how to do things so that this will perpetuate itself. Right. And I think that's the big thing with this is it's not, Sterling or I or Sam or Jocelyn or Andy, Tony, whoever, doing this, for the rest of our lives. We're probably going to have some association to it at some level all of our lives because we're all so passionate about it. But what's more important is that, the youth are running it, and the youth perpetuate this thing. And so that's going to be kind of the number one priority this year is to make that happen. So that's going to be the next challenge. But
yeah,
I will say,
and that's what
go ahead.
No, and that's with the understanding that young people are super busy. I mean, looking at Bryant Rascal, KG5HVO is a super busy kid who's a Rockstar ham radio operator, a CW operator, also Rockstar baseball player, also Rockstar whatever else he does. Like, he's a great academic. And everyone like Ruth, KM4LAO, and I can pick on everyone and say like, oh, they're doing a million other things because youth and AM radio often have like 1,000 things going on, and so you have to take that into consideration too. Like, how can we make it so that it's easy for young people to establish like good planning, and that kind of like structure and foundation to make this perpetuate. And it's not we're not precluding like the older generation and middle age, and we're not being ageist or anything, right? Because for example, when we work with member societies and the bidding thing, like we will have coordination and stuff with said member societies and whatnot. But the young people are putting like the formats together, the what do you call them? The workshops, the schedules,
yeah.
the what are we doing? Where are we going? Like, we want to go there. We want to do that, while the old guys can figure out all the logistics and hard stuff, right?
Yep. That's what we do. So,
yeah.
Well, I'm really pumped. I know tomorrow. I don't want to steal his thunder, but a friend of mine is coming tomorrow to do an episode of his new YouTube channel. And we're going to be doing an interview about Yoda Camp from last year. So once he's got that done and published, we'll promote it here on Ham Talk Live. But we've got that coming up tomorrow, and actually signing some papers tomorrow. So for some of the camp stuff. So we're excited to get that going again. This summer, and again, hopefully, we definitely have the international interest. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some of those people over here for Yoda Camp. So that's some exciting stuff that's coming. And you mentioned that you could. You're just amazed at all the things, and you just sit back and see what happened last summer and just be in amazement. I've been working on the video for the booth for Yoda that will be at first at Winterfest in St. Louis, and then in Orlando at Hamcation. And so I'm going back through these highlight videos, and I told Julie the other night, I said, I could sit here all night and watch these over and over and over again. And she's like, yes, but you need to go to sleep at some point. So, I was like, well, I got to check these and make sure that the repeat cycle works, for the booth. And so I got through all of them once, and once it started repeating, I shut it off. But every once in a while, I have to pull them up and watch them again, because it was just a fabulous week, and
just so much
can't
fun,
wait
yeah.
for the next one. Yeah. All right, Sterling. Well, we've filled our time here, so I want to thank you for coming on and talking about all this stuff. And again, give out the information there on if someone is interested in getting involved, how they can do that.
Youthontheair.org is our main website. You can contact me or Neil there. And my personal email is sterling@n0ssc.com. If you want to get an invite to the those biweekly Yoda Region 2 meetings, feel free to reach out. Either one or two of those ways. So, that's how you do it.
All right, very good. Well, Sterling, thanks for your time tonight. I know you're one of those busy people too, so I appreciate you taking the time out to come on and talk about all this. So thanks.
Well, I appreciate. I'm busy, but somebody says, "Hey, can you talk about youth and amateur radio on a podcast thing?" And I'm like, I will knock everything off the calendar to do just that. I'm more than happy to. So thank you, Neil. Yep.
All right. Well, that is a wrap for this week's edition of Ham Talk Live. Thanks to my guest, Sterling Mann, N0SSC, and everybody out there in cyberspace for listening and typing in tonight. And I'm going to take next week off for Christmas, so let me wish you a very Merry Christmas and invite you back Thursday night, December 30th. At 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And for a list of our upcoming guests, visit hamtalklive.com. And if you like the show, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen. That will help other people find the show faster. So for now, this is Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, saying 7375, and may the good DX be yours.
You came right back to my CQ call. Your readability 5 and strength 9. You never once mentioned your weather at all. And
night, and men should mind. We talked